Hello there, Overclockers. I'm here today with Dr. Stuart Ashens, aka Ashens. How are we today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Good stuff. A bit of cold feet due to the room, but we'll get by.
We'll
Stay
survive.
strong.
We will survive.
We will survive, and you know what else we'll do? We'll answer a quick few questions from you guys. So this one is from Omar N. Smith from Facebook. Nuclear war has broken out. You're in an underground bunker. You only have room for one of your favourite pieces of tat over the years. What would it be, Stuart?
I like the way that the thought is in a nuclear war, I would immediately be getting some tat.
Lovely and grim. And of course, tat would be the first thing that's on your mind.
So, obviously. What else could you possibly need? Drinking water? No, we need bad action figures. I would say the awful action figure of Aunt May from Spider-Man, because it's so frightening. You could use it to ward off dangerous animals, and when the inevitable mutations in humanity occurs, I imagine they would start worshipping it as a god, so you could, position yourself as some kind of papal pope-like figure and succeed in their society.
Oh, there we go. Thinking of power in the post-apocalyptic wasteland.
Absolutely.
For your favourite piece of tat. At least this isn't anything as useless as an inflatable crown.
No, that's a bit self-aggrandising. They probably wouldn't go for that. Unless you had lots of them and you wore them like a suit, and then you had a bit of protection. Could keep you warm, a bit of protection against concussive force.
Oh wow, then the useless inflatable crowns will actually have a use.
Yep, that's pretty much the only one.
So sorry in advance for any mispronunciation of this name. So this next one is from Patrick Ewan, Cheapar, Amish, Day Childs. Yep.
Are you sure that's not like 4 people?
It could well be an actual Facebook group posting a question. So from, let's go with Patrick. Why won't you answer any of my creepy emails?
He knows why.
Perfect. Darius at Fafa asks, etymologically, does tat imply a meaning and or of life, either implicitly or explicitly?
I know those words, but they made no sense to me in a sentence.
I think we'll go with the
So it's asking, does the word have a meaning to do with some sort of existential thing? It's just a load of old tat, isn't it?
There you go. It's just tat. Dermot Archie Matt Conville from Facebook asks, how many times have you had your stomach pumped due to some of the loveliness that you've ate over the years?
None so far.
A stomach of iron.
The trick is you only eat very, very tiny amounts. Wash it down immediately with vodka because it's quite good at killing bacteria. And if it looks really bad, don't eat it or go near it. I know it disappoints people, but on the other hand, you don't die. So, I find that a bit more important personally.
That's very true. PSA to you guys out there, if it looks weird, don't eat it. Over to you lovely guys on Twitter now. At Simon Paul Price asks, have English Heritage granted the good old brown sofa a plaque yet?
No, due to an administrative error, they granted it some plaque and they came over and just chipped all the dry stuff out from between their teeth and left it on the sofa.
Ooh, grim. And now you've got to do the maintenance of the daily brushing.
Yes, well, the once yearly brushing, whether it needs it or not, it always needs it. I don't think they would give it a plaque, actually. I think they would give it a skip, which is probably what it deserves.
Or a Viking burial.
Oh, yes, send it out to sea on fire. That's a great way to get arrested. Yeah.
At MIDI_error asks, if you could amalgamate the best bits of each console/computer over the years, what would your ultimate machine contain? And just as preface, this is not affiliated with Overclockers or any way, shape or form, it's just magically on brand.
I'm going to have to go with console bits though, because I'd want a handheld one. I would want something powerful and handheld. That sounded ruder than I meant. Decent screen, something like a Vita with that kind of guts to it, but open source, so you can just run many old emulations on it. And for controls, you'd want a couple of analog sticks, but I would want the little thumbstick of the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is a nice little micro switchy clicky one, fantastic for fighting games, etc. And I was going to say I'd prefer the games on cartridge so they load quicker, but I suppose that's kind of irrelevant if you're going to be mostly emulating stuff anyway. Just have an SD card slot and you're away. Also, I'd like it to fly and shoot laser beams.
Again, it's features that all handhelds really, / consoles, or computers should have these days.
Absolutely. Living in the future. It doesn't feel like it sometimes, does it?
When will it be 2018?
So I want my flying rocket pack, I want my jet car, invisibility cloak, and a bucket of shiny pebbles. And science has failed us.
Also a robot butler called Rosie.
Oh man, now you're talking.
So this next question is from @It's Adam Berman. Hi Stuart, I asked @Tom Scott and @Unnamed Culprit this, and now I put it to you. Custard cream or bourbon? Who wins the biscuit war?
In with the real questions. I would go custard cream. Because the thing with a bourbon is, I can only eat 1 or 2, then they get a bit cloying and a little bit over the top. But custard cream, you could eat those all day till your teeth fell out, which would be about 2.5 hours in.
Packet after packet, just smashing them away.
Custard
God
cream.
bless you, custard cream. Here's a hot one from @SlightlyBearded. What features would you like to see on the next pop station?
Ooh, it needs like a little panel that folds out on the back with a little bin that folds out, so you can just push it inside itself and then forget about it. Self-destructing. Maybe that's the answer actually. You press 2 buttons and it just catches fire and burns away.
I'm sure there'll be no health and safety regulations issues with that.
Well, that's about run of the mill for a pop station, so...
Sometimes garbage just needs to be treated like garbage.
Absolutely.
Here's one from @Gary and Tarrison. Why are bananas yellow?
Because you can't clean a window with a spade. That's a joke my dad used to tell. Why is an orange orange? Because you can't clean a window with a spade. I think technically an anti-joke, but yeah.
So here's one for myself. So I discovered your content via the talk you gave on hair razors.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yep,
last year, Norwich Gaming
40
Festival.
minutes of it. Absolutely fascinating. So where did you come across the story of hair razors, and how did you get the inspiration almost to build a talk around it?
Well, it started off, I was researching terrible old games for my book. Terrible old games you've probably never heard of. Probably out of shot, but I'm going to do it anyway. And yes, it was mentioned a few times as being somewhat problematic. By the way, it's probably not even a game, and just a method for extracting money from other people's wallets and keeping it. So, yes, it very much did, yeah, and it was so heavily advertised as well, so it wasn't hard to sort of find information about it, and the more you looked into it, the more bizarre and convoluted the story became, how it was mixed in with the huge masquerade book Treasure Hunt, and how you know, these people had won it, but had they cheated, they found out years later. It was a proper intriguing story. And then the Norwich Game Festival said, can you do us a talk on something? And I'm like, I don't know what. I just did bad games last year. I know, I'll do one on hair razor. And then a legend was born. No, probably not, but it was quite a good talk, I thought.
Legend by my standards, it takes a lot to get me sit through a full 40-minute video, so props to you there.
It was 40 minutes, wasn't it? With almost no rehearsal, and yet it worked.
Magic.
I think. That's for you to judge.
Speaking of no rehearsal. From @KinkLangs, when you were getting your PhD, I'm sure you never guessed that you'd be doing this for a living in the 21st century. 21st century, 22nd century, it's kind of an odd career, dependent on whatever the century. But anyway, but did you ever wish to go into the entertainment industry in some way? I think that's kind of self-evident there a bit.
I don't think I did really back in the day. No, it never occurred to me. It wasn't until the internet came along and I started doing all this nonsense. I think I probably wanted to write a novel at some stage, or at least a load of short stories, when I was much younger anyway. But no, it's one of those things. You'd go to the careers advisor and the careers advisor will say, we're in Norwich, you'll probably work for Norwich Union. And I did for a while, obviously, because everybody in Norwich does. It's the law. Well, they used to. No, Norwich Union is like based in, I don't know, Uranus or something. Yeah, I don't think it's anything that ever occurred. It's just something that crept up on me, like some sort of creepy monster.
And here's one that is also lovely and on brand. @PackJord15 says, what was your first ever PC build?
Woohoo! Now you're talking. And I'm going to talk quite slowly on here because I'm trying to dredge back my memory and I'm covering it by using lots of words. there's a
Using
trick.
That, old school processor.
So, yes, exactly. So my first build, it would have been, the Commodore Amiga had just got to the level where even with an accelerator card in, it did nothing. And you wanted to play all the exciting DOS games, and Windows 95 had just come out and all that. So my first ever build, I went all in on the processor, which was a Pentium 200 MMX.
Spicy.
Feel the power. Hard drive would have existed. I couldn't tell you how much now.
Gigabyte of that.
Yeah, if that, probably about 600 meg. RAM, I cannot remember. It would have been a low amount, wouldn't it?
Oh, megabytes, not
So,
gigabytes.
absolutely. It'd been absolutely tiny. That's about, and of course, graphics card. I mean, the graphics card was literally just something to display 2D images. There was no such thing as 3D accelerators. This would have been around the end of 1996. And it was a big, cheap case I got.
Lovely.
And I remember...
Nice and grey.
Yeah, oh yes. Well, no, I think it was beige, actually. Ooh. Even worse. And I remember installing Windows 3.11 on it. Through floppy. Because, of course...
floppy.
Yeah, it took ages. And then I thought, well, this doesn't really work really well. I need to get a copy of Windows 95. And from then on, it was DirectX problems and IRQ conflicts all the way.
Beautiful.
I remember having to wait for a DirectX update on a cover disc so I could play X-Wing versus TIE Fighter.
Wow, of course it did used to come on just like this,
Yeah,
didn't it?
no internet, yeah.
Wow.
Those weren't the days. Thank God. Oh, and the sound card, of course. That didn't work properly, and eventually found somebody who managed to work out that you had to change a config file from one number to another.
Beautiful.
Yeah, which you never would have worked out on your own. Yeah.
Can't even Google it as well?
So, no, absolutely. Literally, well, I suppose there was a vague internet, which we
Alta
sort of...
Vista?
Yeah, Alta Vista. You used to use Dogpile because it would search
yes,
all
of
the ones
course.
at once, yeah. Oh my God.
Lycos?
Yes.
Jeeves?
Lycos, that's an old one.
All the fallen warriors,
You'd,
devoured by the Google lords.
you'd go onto the Angel Fire page to find your answer with the
Yes.
scrolling GIF background.
Oh yes.
Site under
horrible
construction,
looking-
sign our guest book, and the answer they gave you would always be wrong. Those were not the days, they really weren't.
They really were. So Ashens, it is indeed the day of love. So we have a question from Jessius. What is the Silver Skull up to this Valentine's Day?
Oh, good Lord. Well, my understanding is he's currently in Panto in Lowestoft, so that will be taking up all his time. The problem is it's off-season, so I think he's just performing for himself in like an empty theatre.
Just him, Peter Andre, a few X Factor
So it's sort of, yep, and yeah, it's a bad time will be had by all. Until the security see that they're broken in, then they kick him out.
Oh, spare a thought for Silver Skull this Valentine's Day.
Don't, he's not worth it.
Ashens, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. I hope you've had a good time.
I have indeed. Thank you for inviting me.
Awesome. We'll see you Overclockers next time.